It's 100 degrees. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling his tea, spilling and sipping his tea, spilling and sipping his tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your 100 degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea. Sip this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's your 100 degrees, shining bright, set the stage. Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea. Sip with me, spilling this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling and sipping this tea. Spilling 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 and sipping this tea.
What's going on, Diamond Gang? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm back with another war update. Guys, I haven't been live in a couple of days. There's not much going on as far as the war, okay? I will be going live really soon. I'm trying to put together a video on Kushner, on Jared Kushner. But in the meantime, I thought that I would go live in between, okay? It's nothing but shenanigans going on. But we got a couple things that I will be getting into as far as the war. Let me start off with saying shouts out to my Rumble family. Shouts out to my YouTube family. Guys, especially on Rumble, I want to say thank you to the replay gang over there on Rumble. I appreciate you guys a lot. I really do. Okay, you guys keep me coming back. So you guys know how we do it here. Okay, all opinions will be respected. You just can't be disrespectful. We encourage you to chat. Your opinion matters. Even if it's opposing to my opinion, put it in the chat. Okay, we can converse. We could talk about it. We could agree to disagree. Okay, now let me just say this real quick and get this out the way. If you would like to support the channel, it is $ The Great Spills the Tea. You can either send me a super chat, super sticker via YouTube. On Rumble is considered a rant, or a simple like will do. The likes help keep me in the algorithm, so that is support as well. Okay, you guys know I start 24 to 48 hours prior, and then I work my way up in real time to what's going on. So tonight we're going to be talking about diplomacy. We're at it's a deadlock. Nothing is moving. We're going to talk about Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. Trump threatening our allies, which is not a good thing. We're going to talk about North Korea and South Korea. Trump decided to scale back on our military exercises with South Korea. We're going to get a little bit into Israel and Gaza. Okay. Kushner was sent over there to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu in Egypt, and it didn't go too well. We're going to talk about the UAE and Iran. Okay. The UAE accused Iran of firing 2 missiles. Iran denied it. They think that it came from somewhere else. Okay, and we'll get into that. We're also going to talk about the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Okay. So if you guys is ready to go, I'm going to bring up my screen and we could get straight into it. Okay, bingo. I look good. All right, Diamond Gang, let's get into it. So as you know, guys, it's 6 months. The MOU has expired. So right now we're at a deadlock. Where does the U.S. go from here? This is what this live stream is all about. Where do we go from here? Trump claims that he's not in a hurry. However, we don't have a way out at all. But let's take a listen to how long he said that this would go on.
Day period, we'll see how that goes. And if it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this.
They want to make a deal. They want to make a deal more than I want to make a deal.
I gave them a 10-day period. Whether we make a deal or not makes no difference to me. And the reason is because we've won.
We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. 26 days in, we're really a lot ahead of schedule.
You had initially said it would be 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, I hope that, but I also took a little break. I gave them a break. I think we're 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is,
we'll leave.
How long are you willing to wait until you get a unified response?
Don't rush me, Jeff. We have no pressure. It's only guys like you with a question like that about what's your time. We've been doing it for 5.5 weeks.
Are you considering extending the ceasefire with Iran?
We're doing very well, I can tell you. Maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended.
Can you say that you are to a deal right now with Iran?
It could happen any day. Could, and it might not happen. Well, I'm saying 2 or 3 days, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something, maybe early next week. Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. It's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, it's all right. We go back to bombing. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. Next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges, unless they get to the table. No, we'll just see how it is. We're ready to go anytime we want. This is the last chance for them to sign a good document. The opening of the strait, having it open literally by tomorrow.
are you any closer today to reaching a final deal to end Iran's nuclear program?
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary.
At the end.
Now, let me stop it right there. Can the U.S. get Iran to come to the table? Can we convince Iran not to acquire a nuclear weapon? Okay, this is supposed to be all about diplomacy. Guys, diplomacy. Talking to your adversaries to find a workable solution even when you strongly disagree. It could be direct or indirect negotiations. It could be open communication and dialogue. It could be a give and take or a compromise. Protecting your own interests while recognizing the other side's interests. Agreements, treaties, or understandings. Using military force as a last resort rather than a first option. Guess what? The U.S. started backwards. Okay? We started backwards. We started using military force almost immediately. And it cost us. It cost us in a major way. So I've seen very little diplomacy in 6 months. since the start of this conflict. Very little. Hey, David, hi. You said November election is coming and lame duck is a pressure point. Yeah. You said, nope, America has no power in the region. This is sad. We started backwards, Diamond Gang. But let's take a listen.
End of the day, the only path to verifiably blocking Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon is a deal that includes intrusive inspections in Iran. That is something Iran would have to agree to. That requires diplomacy. It requires negotiations. I do find it interesting that you had Jared Kushner out saying there are talks ongoing, and then you have the president 24 hours later saying there are no talks ongoing. These two things can be squared by the definition of what talks are. Informal contacts outside of the administration, ways of passing messages back and forth. Maybe that's what's unfolding, and that's what Jared Kushner is referring to. But at the end of the day, there is simply no substitute for the United States sitting down with Iran, whether it's with mediators or just simply directly, as we did back in the Obama administration, and coming out with the terms of a deal that does, in fact, put a lid on Iran's nuclear program for the long term. But we've gotten so far off course of that because right now the main point of friction is not actually the nuclear program, whatever President Trump says, it's getting the Strait open. And that's trying to restore a status quo ante that existed before this war kicked off in February, before we even get to questions about a long-term deal on the nuclear file.
Now, let me say this. Trump has yet to come up with a strategic plan to get us out of this war choice. Last week, he was concerned about getting the straits open. Now, this week is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. At this point, they are throwing ideas at the wall and they are hoping that they stick. Okay? That is what he's doing. And it's just sad to say it will take us literally decades to mend the fences with some of our allies after he leaves the office. Seriously. Okay? Let's take a listen, Diamond Gang.
He's kind of all over the place on this, isn't he? Deadlines just don't matter anymore.
Yeah, that sense of chaos more than control, not for the first time. But I think the US is going to be picking up the pieces for at least a generation. Cast your mind back 60 days ago, mid-June, when Donald Trump and the Iranian president, Mahmoud...
He has just about managed to offend just about every ally that the U.S. has, unfortunately.
Pezeshkian signed a memorandum of understanding to sign a peace deal within 60 days. Trump signing the deal in the French palace with Emmanuel Macron. Well, let them eat humble pie, because what do we know? Well, the deal is in tatters. 60 days on, we could be as far from peace as we have been for some time.
Yeah, all sides have missed the deadline. And we're hearing the same thing from the president again, the threats towards Iran that they must never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Yes, he's got the enemy in his sights, but it would appear some allies aren't far from the crosshairs. He was on Fox News, and he said, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the out of them.
Yeah, Oman catching strays is what the young people would say. They're not the target, but they're getting attacked anyway. Yeah. Oman, for anyone who doesn't know, they've been negotiating with Iran separately. That's because the Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman. So they have a clear vested interest, but they're also, as you say, an ally of America. They're trying to do right by the United States.
Yeah, and they've taken a few retaliatory hits from Iran in areas where the United States has some bases.
He is kind of all over the place on this, isn't he? Deadlines just don't matter anymore.
Yeah, that sense of chaos more than control, not for the first time. I think his worry, Martha, is that he isn't in control of where this ends up. And it's clear Oman and Iran, they're going to make money out of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump will be concerned there's going to be a car.
That's the issue that he has no control over what they are talking about, and he's not included.
That carves him out. he, I think, needs to make sure that Oman isn't added to the list of alliances that he has detonated. You know, in a number of parts of the world, he is ripping up American influence the way it has been for 80 years, fundamentally altering what this country is at home and abroad. And
he's not following foreign policy either.
I think the U.S. is going to be picking up the pieces for at least a generation.
So the 60-day deadline.
So let me stop it right here. So again, the 60-day MOU has expired, okay, without a deal. Iran declared the MOU null and void. They are now shifting to an offensive military posture, okay? They doubled down on the straits remaining closed until their demands are met. Trump threatening Oman, a key ally who has assisted with peace talks. Before this war even started, they were involved. Okay, Iran has been striking ships quite frequently. They are actually planning on ramping the attacks up and possibly targeting the U.S. blockade soon. They're giving us just a few weeks, guys. Let's take a listen.
Deadline at the end of the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, the framework that was meant to give U.S.-Iran talks a timeline and a structure, expired this morning without a deal. Now, the Islamic Republic of Iran wasted no time declaring the MOU null and void, and the situation deteriorated pretty quickly.
Let me stop that. Let me read this comment. You said the only way a military invasion would work is if America can afford military deaths on a scale of Russia, and the U.S. is not able to absorb that kind of level of, what is that, Kia? You're right. They definitely, that would be, you talking about midterms. Woo, that would not be good.
Quickly from there. Tehran announced it has shifted to a fully offensive military posture. Chief negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said that the Islamic Republic's position had not changed. The Strait of Hormuz will not reopen until the U.S. lifts its naval blockade, removes oil sanctions, and unfreezes Iranian assets abroad. Then Trump threatened to bomb Oman if it interfered with what was left of the talks. All of these statements are less of a bid to reopen talks and more final position statements. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, said that in the final analysis, from their perspective, Iran won both the war and the diplomacy.
Now, look, pay attention to this clip because Bloomberg News said peace would be more dangerous for Iran. They stand to gain more with defiance. The more they break the U.S. down, that would actually turn the Gulf states away from their partnerships with us. So take a listen. This is interesting.
In the Strait, the picture actually gets worse. Only 6 vessels transited the Strait yesterday, and today, a vessel was struck by an unknown projectile, causing 1 casualty among the crew. So where do things go from here? Well, Bloomberg News put it pretty starkly. Peace right now is more dangerous for Iran's new leadership than war. That analysis is probably right. Iran's current leadership, which is now end-to-end staunch IRGC, has more to gain from the posture of defiance than from the concessions any deal would require. The more time that they get demonstrating both the ineffectiveness and the deterioration of the U.S. military in the region, with news reports like these, the stronger their leverage to turn the other Persian Gulf nations away from their partnerships with America. The most plausible pressure valve is the Oman-Iran track on Strait of Hormuz navigation. Qatar has said that if they can get that agreement done, then they can restart talks meaningfully. Iran and Oman have reportedly agreed on the geographic coordinates of a transit route. That would be the 2 separate lanes coming in on the Oman side and out on the Iran side while demining takes place in the middle. Then eventually those 2 lanes disappear and a middle lane that moves in 2 directions would eventually come into place. Now, whether the U.S. accepts any arrangement short of a full reopening is still the unanswered question. But taking the Strait out of the talks is still probably the first most important step to restarting anything meaningful in terms of diplomacy.
All right, guys. So guys know Trump threatens to bomb Oman if it gets in the way of Iran deal. Okay. Now, like I said, Oman was negotiating the peace deal and had been for quite some time, even prior to the conflict starting. Okay.
This morning, Trump has told Fox News that he'll bomb the shit out of Oman if they get in the way of a peace deal with Iran.
Now, listen, the last live stream, I believe, okay, I think it was that particular live stream. They almost had a deal on the table. Oman had worked it out. There was just a few little things that they need to straighten out. That's when we went in with Israel and jointly bombed Iran. I told you guys, they had agreed to dilute the enriched uranium and to sell it as something else. So we had it on the table. We was just that close. But guess who came in? Benjamin Netanyahu. And he told Trump that they were weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. The U.S. intelligence said that wasn't the case. So that's been established and it's been out there for a while. But Oman helped put this together. They helped Iran actually put the enriched uranium on the table. They offered to dilute it and sell it. And we bombed them with Israel. Another opportunity missed. But let's take a listen.
Now, that is completely absurd. And this is just what's starting off this week and what's to come more than likely. A lot of craziness and chaos. But Oman was the country whose mediators were negotiating the peace deal and virtually had the deal almost done before Trump launched the war against Iran. So this just makes it even more insane. They've been very good at being a mediator throughout this whole process. Even after he did that, they were completely caught off guard by the strikes because they are saying they were pretty much there. It was just...
Listen, right now, our allies are very concerned, and they do believe that Trump has no way or don't even know where to begin to start to get us out of this war. They are even thinking, and we talked about this the last live stream, of not hosting military bases over there anymore. Guys, when this is all said and done, we will be alienated as a country.
Some fine details getting worked out, and then Trump started the war, assassinated the leaders of Iran, and here we are now, trying to get back to that point, and now he's threatening the country that's been helping us get there. And this comes as countries like Oman, Saudi Arabia, they're losing faith in Trump and his ability to come to a peace deal, to get this done. They're very concerned, and now he's saying things like this. This is not going to help that situation. The U.S. could be on the verge of losing allies in this effort in the Middle East. Let me know what you guys...
When we get to the part with North Korea, South Korea, you know, guys, President Trump said out of his own mouth today in front of the press, okay, he gave information, classified information, I'm pretty sure he had no business saying, but he literally said that North Korea has 57 nuclear weapons. He said that out of his mouth. All right, guys, let's continue. I think Trump is upset. He's not involved. He has no control over what Oman and Iran decides. He doesn't have a clue on any details about how Oman and Iran is going to open up the straits. He put that promise out there last week, him and Scott Bessent, and it flopped. We got a deal. The straits will be open any day now. And that just wasn't the case. They were not speaking to him at all.
Think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow along for more, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Good morning. Donald Trump has now threatened to bomb a U.S. ally if it got in the way of any peace with Iran. This morning, speaking with a Fox News host, Trey Yingst, Donald Trump said that he will, quote, bomb the shit out of a country called Oman. Oman is a key U.S. ally in the Middle East.
Listen, our allies are going to go around the U.S. They're going to start making deals directly with Iran. Okay? Because that's what's in their best interest. Iran will be the superpower of the Middle East when this is over, unfortunately.
East. And, well, Oman has in a lot of ways acted as an intermediary between the United States and Iran, has also had direct communications with Iran. And as we enter a phase in which the war in Iran doesn't seem like it's ending anytime soon, Trump is now lashing out at one of our allies, Oman, and threatening to bomb Oman if it gets in the way of any Iran deal. Now, as it currently stands, there is no indication that Oman is getting in the way of any Iran deal. And right now we are nearing the 60-day mark where Donald Trump said that we would have essentially a deal by, but right now there really isn't a deal. And so as you start your workday, just know that we may be on the verge of bombing a whole nother country. I'll have more updates for you soon. Follow along for more.
President Trump.
Okay, guys. Again, Trump claimed that he was not in a rush now that the MOU has expired. And he claimed that he had a back channel and that he was talking to Iran. This is what he claims. But then later he was forced to tell the truth, basically. But let's take a listen.
I'm speaking to Fox News, saying that he is in no hurry on Iran and that they should wave the white flag. He said that there is a back channel with Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and he threatened to bomb Oman if it gets in America's way. That is likely in response to Iran's claim that it is working with Oman on a plan to manage the transit of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. He also said Israel should not be striking in Gaza and that he may endorse someone else someone in Israel's election. Taking a look at WTI.
And that's his issue. Okay? It's Israel. Where are they? They're too busy fighting over there in Gaza, Hezbollah. And guess what they said? I had that. They can't depend on us. They have to be ready to fight Iran by themselves because they cannot depend on us. Why are we in this? Israel. But let's take a listen.
We are slightly higher this morning, up by about 9 cents to 82.49. We were up by about 5% over the course of the last week.
And this morning you said you would bomb the S out of Oman if they got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Would you say you're out of patience with Oman as strategic?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
This morning you said you would bomb the S out of Oman if they got in the way of reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Would you say you're out of patience with Oman as strategic?
No, I don't think they behave very well, but we handle them.
Listen, Oman was literally working with Witkoff and Kushner, the real estate agents, to get the straits open. Okay. Let's take a listen.
Very easily, just like we do other things.
This is a head scratcher. I'm really having a hard time getting my head around why he made those comments about Oman. Oman is working diligently.
At this point, he is reassuring our allies that we cannot be trusted.
and in quiet cooperation with Mr. Kushner and Mr. Witkoff to get a deal open, to get the Strait open through a negotiated deal. Now, it won't be permanent. Obviously, it'll include some sort of framework for monitoring and verification that obviously we need to be able to get rid of over time. But they're working diligently here to try to get that Strait open, which I know is a priority for the Trump administration. So saying comments like this and bullying Oman when they're really one of the few friends you have left in the Middle East that's willing to actually do something about getting the Strait open, just it makes no sense at all. And all he's doing by making comments like that is reinforcing for our allies, back to the Wall Street Journal editorial, reinforcing for our allies in the Middle East that the United States cannot be trusted and is not a sustainable long-term partner.
Unfortunately, this is not his first time threatening Oman. He threatened Oman, and I told you guys, I totally forgot about this, but I told you guys that when Iran first went to Oman to ask them, they said no. And then they said yeah, and then they said no, and now they're back on. So if they've done this, well, no, yeah, quite a few times. But when Iran first announced it, that is when Trump threatened to bomb them. So this is not his first time threatening them at all. But let's take a listen.
It's not the first time that the president has suggested that he might bomb Oman.
I believe this is why Oman changed their mind so many times. And I told you guys, eventually Oman will have to get involved and stay involved in order to get the straits opened. But this was the second time he threatened to bomb them. And again, prior to what happened in February, he got Iran to put the enriched uranium on the table. Oman did that. They were willing to dilute it and sell it. And unfortunately, we went in with Israel and started this conflict because Benjamin Netanyahu told the president they were weeks away from nuclear weapons.
I think it is trying to get their attention more than a practical threat. Clearly, there is frustration in the White House that Oman seems to be partnering closely with the Iranians on developing a channel for the Strait of Hormuz. We don't know what the details are yet that'll come out. Earlier, a few weeks back, the Omanis had suggested a neutral channel in the middle of the strait that would not be under the control of either side, but the Iranians rejected that. So I don't really know what the substance is at the moment, but I think it appears that the U.S. side wants the Omanis to leave it alone and let the U.S. take the lead in opening the strait.
President Trump.
Now, again, it was explained. For now, they will come in on the Omani side. Oh, excuse me. They will come in on Iran's side and leave out on Oman's side. Once they clear the man, it will be a single lane in the middle. Okay? All right, let's take a listen. This is Trump speaking on Oman.
Threatened to attack a U.S. ally on Monday if it interferes with his efforts to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, telling Fox News, if Oman gets in the way, we'll bomb the out of them. Now, it's not the first time that Trump has made this kind of threat, despite decades of good relations between the US and Oman. Back in May, when it emerged that Oman was in talks with Iran about possibly charging vessels fees for transiting the critical waterway, Trump had this to say.
Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up.
Oman hasn't responded to
that threat right there. That was when Iran first announced that they wanted to partner up with Iran. Trump threatened them. Oman is about peace. They have been. Again, they've been involved in peace talks and tried to prevent this war before it even started. We were dealing with Oman.
to either of Trump's threats. The comments come as the US is pushing other countries to support their efforts to isolate Iran. But the Gulf monarchy has long positioned itself as a mediator, willing to talk to anybody, including Iran. In the lead up to the US-Israel war against Iran, Oman was mediating talks to try and curb the country's nuclear program and also to try and prevent the war from happening. After the war began, however, Oman's foreign minister wrote an essay suggesting the United States had, quote, lost control of its own foreign policy, adding America's friends must help extricate it from an unlawful war. Both Iran and Oman border the Strait of Hormuz, and the commercial shipping routes pass through both nations' territorial waters. Iran has insisted that both countries should administer the waterway after the war.
All right, now we're about to get into the bounty. Now, guys, remember the last live stream, I told you that Iran is putting out a $30,000 bounty for any U.S. military personnel. Okay.
The head of the Iranian army.
Now, guys, I did not think of this at all. I did not think of this. They don't have any contact with any U.S. military personnel. So I believe that they put that out there to kind of get the Iranian people, they feel as though that now they should be as one. Even the ones that's against the government, I believe that's what they're trying to do. Some think it's just the propaganda, okay? But I believe it's trying to get the Iranian people to band together. But they don't have any access to any U.S. military personnel.
Just issued a bounty, a reward of roughly $30,000 to any Iranian who kills or captures a U.S. soldier. He goes further. It says that number will double to $60,000 if that's carried out by a woman. Now, this is all part of Iran's propaganda machine. There are no known U.S. ground troops anywhere within reach of ordinary Iranians. And the last time there were American boots on Iranian soil, as it were, well, that was back in April with the successful rescue of the two-man crew of the F-15 fighter jet that crashed. Iranian authorities offered a reward back then for the capture of those airmen alive, but both were eventually rescued by U.S. forces. So this is all part of the rhetoric, along with the statement that Iran will shift from defensive to fully offensive if diplomacy fails to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And they go even further than that, demanding that U.S. bases in the Middle East would not be allowed to return to their pre-war state. So that 30,000...
Actually, in reality, some of them won't be able to because they've been totally decimated.
$1 bounty offer may be to rally Iranians, maybe send a message or a threat to U.S. forces. But I can tell you it certainly won't have any impact on future U.S. military operations in that region, whatever they may look like.
But Iran has actually come out and is offering...
Now, pay attention to this one right here specifically because they bring up the point as far as bringing them together. And this was put out there as far as loyalty to see who is loyal to Iran.
Money for the killing and capturing of American soldiers, despite, Chip, there have been virtually none of them on the ground. So is Iran encouraging asymmetric attacks, on U.S. forces because it knows it cannot confront America? Like, where's Iran going with this, do you think?
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, but from another perspective, really. So who actually said this? So we know that the sort of ideologues generally within Iran are the IRGC, hardcore ideologists, and they're the ones who won't concede anything. It's often been said that one of the potential ways that you would unlock the problem from an American perspective is try and peel the Artesh, the Iranian army, away from the IRGC, and that would be a method of, along with economic pressure and potentially, using the Kurds and proxy forces from the north, of getting the Iranians to concede or implode from within with mobilizing the population. But in this case, the guy who said that the bounty should be paid was the army chief, Amir Hatami. Now, from that perspective, this was done not for a foreign operational reason. It was done for a domestic loyalty reason. What it's really saying, I think, is, look, we are one force, we are one nation.
This right here, this is what I truly believe. Loyalty, we are one force, even the ones that are against their government. They're calling for them to stand with them.
Don't go there, because the army are aligned with the IRGC in making sure that the sovereign right of Iran to resist and persist is there. That's the prism I think we need to look at this through. It was also Hatami who yesterday said that the Strait of Hormuz is Iranian and it's under our control and forever will be. So it's that domestic signaling which is important from the perspective of what was said.
Really quick. Guys, if you watched the last live, I talked about Iran accusing Qatar of keeping 3 of their pilots, okay? 1 passed away. There were 4 altogether. Iran believes that Qatar has them in custody. So this is just the follow-up of what has taken place, okay? Iran went public with it, and Qatar denied it. They said that they gave them open invitation to actually come to talk about their search and rescue efforts. But let's hear what Iran has to say. Under their status is clarified.
وضعیتشون روشن نشده فرض بر این
The presumption is that the pilots have been taken captive.
هست که به اسارت در اومدن بنابراین
Therefore, we will utilize all bilateral, multilateral, and legal avenues.
ما از همه ظرفیت‌های دو جانبه، چند جانبه و حقوقیمون استفاده خواهیم کرد برای اینکه
to determine the fate of these 3 pilots.
وضعیت سه خلبانمون.
Now this is Qatar actually responding.
Already delivered one of their remains. We have.
Now what he's saying is that we've already delivered. They did actually give the deceased man's body to Iran through back channels. They talked. They were able to get his body. Okay. But again, the other 3 pilots are missing.
Already received an Iranian delegation. We have already offered to sit down with the Iranians and explain to them the search and rescue operations. The involvement of the ICRC in the statements by the Iranians is just a media ploy. And the attempt of making it look apparently to their own people like they are doing the most that they can. They don't need any third party. We would welcome any verifiers from any party, but this is just a media ploy. It's not a serious ask that the ICRC be part of this. The ICRC needs to be part of this if we were not communicating with the Iranians directly. We are communicating with them. They have an invitation. They are the ones that haven't yet replied to the invitation. The invitation is still open.
Okay, you said, David said, Americans can be kidnapped and held for hostage as human shields. It was done in the past in Lebanon in the 1980s. I remember that. All right, guys. Iran has threatened to escalate as the MOU expires. They are giving the U.S. a couple of weeks to move on diplomacy. If not, they are going to amp up attacks. They even spoke on possibly bombing the U.S. blockade. And don't forget, the Houthis as well. Okay.
Today, Iran said that if there isn't any movement on diplomacy over the next few weeks, they are prepared to escalate here in the region, not in the Strait of Hormuz, but new theaters as well. One place to keep a close eye on is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait off of the coast of Yemen, where we've seen ships coming under fire in recent days, with the Houthis, a proxy of Iran, taking responsibility for those attacks. That is another key corridor for the movement of oil that has seen tensions over the last few weeks. Follow for the latest updates on the situation with Iran.
Now, Iran has claimed victory, guys. They said they are going offensive. They threatened to amp up attacks. They put out bounties on U.S. military personnel, and they put a separate one on President Trump. The U.S. they're now talking about not hosting military bases in the Middle East. Okay, so they're thinking about not even having us over there. Again, I said this, some of those bases we can't even go back to. They've been destroyed.
Breaking news, a senior Iranian official told Reuters that Iran has completely switched its policy from defensive to offensive and set a deadline of a few weeks for the U.S. to fully implement the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. Iranian parliament speaker said they won this war decisively, both militarily and politically, because the U.S. and Israel felt every one of their 9 objectives. Iran's army chief just offered a $30,000 bounty to anyone who kills or captures a U.S. soldier and hands them over. Iran's top national security official also floated a $50 million bounty for assassinating President Trump. And now the Washington Post is reporting that the Trump administration is considering surrendering U.S. bases in the Gulf and pulling back from the Persian Gulf after Iranian strikes crippled American bases. Iran already won this war decisively, and now you can see they are being bold and making threats. And for the first time, they have threatened the U.S. and gone on the offensive. And wow, the Iran army chief offering $30,000 to anyone if they kill U.S. military soldiers if they invade. I think they would do it for free, but for 30 grand to kill an enemy, I'm sure that won't be a problem for the soldiers, especially a foreign enemy invading their lands. And now even the U.S. is talking about giving up its bases in the Gulf after Iran hit them. And that's another clear reason why Iran has won this war.
Then some of them are destroyed. We can't even go back. But again, Trump feels as though that Iran will not make a deal that he feels is necessary.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Now,
you understand that?
This is the goal this week. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Last week, it was to get the straits open.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and they won't have a nuclear weapon. And right now, them building one after what we did previously with the B-2 bombers, going to be a long time behalf. But Iran cannot have. It's very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon.
Now, remember, he said that they were having talks through back channels. Yesterday, he posted on True Social, there are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force in effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. All water mines have been removed or detonated. Thank you for your attention in this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I don't know about all those mines being detonated, but again, he was forced to put this statement out. There were no back channels.
Iran is now declaring that.
Now, guys, Iran's parliament speaker went to Iraq. He's claiming there's a new Middle East forming. They say that the U.S. has lost its influence, and they claim that the MOU was signed out of desperation. If you were in my last live stream, I played a clip from the parliament speaker from Iran. Qualibaf is his name, speaking on how the MOU came about getting signed. Remember, guys, I told you this story. I told you that they had threatened to bomb Elon Musk businesses over there. That night, Trump called off the supposed strikes and the MOU was there. This is the guy that told that story, and I showed you guys this clip. He went to Iraq. Let's take a listen.
A new Middle East is forming where the U.S. has lost its influence and Israel's long-term plans have failed. Iran's parliament speaker made these statements today during an official visit to Iraq, framing the recent conflicts as a total victory for Iran's regional alliance. He began this trip to Iraq by visiting the exact spot where an Iranian general and an Iraqi militia leader lost their lives in 2020. Standing at the site, he posted on Twitter addressing the deceased commander, saying, "This is the fruit of your jihad and blessed blood." He argued that the current geopolitical situation is the direct result for their years of fighting against U.S. and Israeli forces. He stated that a profound transformation is happening in the Middle East and that foreign powers can no longer bully or control local nations, claiming that U.S. forces are now actively searching for a graceful or dignified exit plan to leave the region entirely. He also pointed to the MOU as legal proof of America's defeat, claiming the U.S. only agreed to it out of desperation. And he mocked the phrase "from the river to the..."
Listen, that MOU, I knew it was no good the moment it was signed. Listen, if President Trump would not have gotten so much backlash, I think that was his exit route. Unfortunately, it left too much room for each side to interpret whatever they wanted to interpret. So it wasn't good.
The sea when applied to Israeli ambitions, saying that Israel will not see this vision realized even in its dreams.
Now, this is Qualibaf over there in Iraq, okay? He's saying enemies understood Iran's power in the Ramadan War. Resistance in Iraq is also one of the elements of the country's power. Today, resistance has gone beyond the borders of Iran and Iraq. With the discourse of struggle and has become global. Our trip to Iraq today is aimed at strengthening the new order. In the region and accelerate the strengthening of cooperation between countries in the region without foreign interference. During the war, I also publicly stated several times that the Islamic countries of the region should seek deep security interactions and relations. Now they're trying to strengthen their relationships over there. That will be accompanied by substantial economic cooperation. And the Islamic Republic is ready for this. Now, the foreign minister, he spoke very briefly. I saw an analysis from one of the countries saying that the world had underestimated the Iranian people.
مردم ایران رو دست کم گرفته بود. هیچ کس فکر نمی‌کرد
No one thought the Iranian people would be this resilient and steadfast.
که مردم ایران انقدر سرسخت و مقاوم باشن. نیروهای مسلح
The world had underestimated Iran's armed forces as well.
ایران رو دنیا دست کم گرفته بود و فکر نمی‌کرد
and did not think they would be able to maintain their firepower.
که اونها بتونن آتش خودشون رو تا آخرین لحظه حفظ کنن و به هر
Until the very last moment and respond to every attack in kind.
حمله به صورت متقابل جواب بدن و بعد
Then the world also underestimated Iran's officials.
دنیا مسئولین ایرانی رو هم دست کم گرفته بود. هیچ کس فکر نمی‌کرد
No one thought that the officials would be unalived one after another.
که مسئولین یکی یکی شهید بشن ولی
Yet would not abandon their position or their responsibilities.
محل جای خودشون رو ترک نکنن، مسئولیت خودشون رو ترک نکنن. این یک واقعیتی هست در
This is a reality in Iran.
ایران هیچ کسی
Not a single official abandoned their work or resigned.
هیچ مسئولی نه کارش رو رها کرد، نه استعفا داد، نه رفت تو خونه.
Went home, went into hiding, or God forbid, left the country or sought asylum.
جای قایم شد، نه خدای نکرده از کشور خارج شد یا پناهنده از این چیزایی که در
This is something that happens in the other countries when a crisis arises.
کشور دیگه رخ میده دیگه وقتی بحرانی پیش میاد هست.
Now guys, remember President Trump claimed the Strait as U.S. territory. Well, Iran calls California its new territory. So they're trolling after Trump's Hormuz claimed. So they said, you can claim the Strait of Hormuz as your territory. We're going to claim the state of California. They were trolling big time. New territory of Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, the IRGC advisor calls Trump childlike and says U.S. failed to overthrow Iran. Special role in this era, and in particular, he is very short-sighted. I mean, he has a childish attitude. He has no plan for the future. I mean, when he talks, he doesn't even think about it 24 hours later. An important leader of the international community has to see the depths of his speech. Even the depths of 50 or 100 years. Which is recorded in history. But the special thing about him is that he plans for the future and speaks in a way that is serious and has a future and has a plan. I mean, his words don't have a standard. His statements have destroyed the power of the United States. So what they're saying is because Trump, he's basically saying with the threats and the back and forth, he destroyed our credibility. I don't know what he's. I'm sorry, guys. I went too fast.
حساب نمی‌کنیم. یعنی من
I mean, I count on the words
روی حرف ایراننده
of the leader a lot more
اون خیلی بیشتر حساب می‌کنم چون سر ساعت
because he comes at the time of the hour,
میاد ولی همش
but always says the word that are proven by tomorrow's
حرفایی میزنه که فرداش با ابطالش
cancellation. And he's talking about Trump canceling. Never, 1 minute he's going to strike us, he's not going to strike us. They're not taking him serious.
ثابت میشه. این حسن
You don't even count these words on him.
این حرفا رو شما روش حساب نکنید.
I don't think the media should go into
زیاد به نظرم رسانه‌ها هم نباید بپردازن زیاد
too much detail about the words
حرفای رئیس جمهور فعلی
of the current president of the United States,
آمریکا که اصلا
which are actually useless words.
حرف بیفایده میزنه.
And that's the bottom line. They're not taking Trump serious at all because of the threats, because of the Taco Tuesday, Taco Wednesday, Taco Thursday. They're not taking him serious at all. All right, guys, let's get into it. Now, this clip right here is about Iran. They are weighing options of escalating, possibly Europe next, Bulgaria and Cyprus. That is their remember, they are looking to widen this war and try to get a little bit of everybody involved. They put threats out there to target Europe next.
Hey, so the Financial Times is out with an exclusive report today, quoting Iranian insiders saying that if there is an escalation here in the region, Iran is weighing the possibility of expanding their targets to.
Let me read this. You said Trump lost all his credibility with many countries around the world. Yeah, he has. He definitely has.
Europe. They named Bulgaria and Cyprus by name within this report. Follow for the latest updates on the situation with Iran.
Well, so that may be next. Okay, Europe. That is their target. Now we are going to get into North America, I said North America. Oh my goodness, I got to be tired. North Korea and South Korea. Okay, we're going to get into President Trump making the decision to scale back on military exercises, which is unfortunate because that prepares us as well. It just doesn't prepare South Korea. It prepares our military as well.
Just days ago that North Korea fired a ballistic missile into waters near Japan. In an apparent show of strength ahead of joint military exercises with South Korea due to start tomorrow, Donald Trump has.
This is all they've been talking about for the last 3 days. 2 days.
Responded today by ordering the Pentagon to substantially reduce the planned war games, saying they're too expensive and that they send what he calls an inappropriate and hostile signal to North Korea. The president taking to Truth Social also insisting he has a very good relationship with the North Korean dictator who has been unthreatening and respectful. The exercises begin tomorrow and normally involve around 18,000 South Korean troops alongside U.S forces, and they rehearse everything from drone attacks to cyber warfare. Trump says it is too late to cancel, but wants the plans stripped back. It's a significant concession to Kim Jong Un, who has long condemned the drills as a rehearsal for invasion, something that is particularly striking because North Korea has now tested 2 ballistic missiles within a week. Tensions remain high in the area, South Korea revealing it recently fired warning shots after North Korean soldiers crossed the military demarcation line.
President Trump also scolded.
Now, again, these drills help the U.S. as well. It helps us prepare for potential threats from North Korea. So it would definitely help the readiness of our troops here in the U.S. Plus, these drills have been going on for decades. So this is once again going off of personal feelings and not foreign policy. But let's take a listen.
South Korea for not helping the U.S. denuclearize Iran. It also called for curtailing military drills with South Korea. What would the impact of this move be?
Yeah, it really affects the U.S.'s ability to provide security in the region. The U.S. and South Korea have been having military drills for decades, 70 years since the end of the Korean War. These drills help prepare the U.S. in the event of an attack from North Korea. And Trump has often gone after the cost. During his first administration, he curtailed these drills to help his nuclear talks with North Korea, didn't help with the nuclear talks. But the drills cost, I think the estimates at the time were between $10 and $20 million. But the thing is, these are essential for getting the U.S. and South Korea on the same page in the event of a North Korean attack. North Korea has hundreds, more, or maybe thousands of missiles.
And again, today, he literally let it come out of his mouth, and I'm pretty sure it was classified information, that North Korea has 57 nuclear weapons, nukes, 57.
Artillery shells that it can pour into South Korea. U.S. Troops usually deploy to South Korea on one-year rotations. So having these drills is essential for U.S. military preparedness and knowledge up and down the chain of command and in the event of any contingency with North Korea. So really important for the region, and these have been a cornerstone of the security arrangement with South Korea for decades.
President Trump has often joked that he and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un fell in love during his first term. Now, he seems to be trying to revive the relationship. Trump sent shockwaves through East Asia by announcing that he was scaling back major military.
Again, Trump is siding with North Korea, again, punishing South Korea for not joining this war against Iran. He's moving strictly on personal feelings and not foreign policy.
Drills with South Korea just before they're about to start. He seems to be trying to punish South Korea, a longtime U.S. ally, for failing to join him in Iran, and he's trying to cast around for a win on the foreign policy stage as the war goes sour. But the move will deepen concerns around.
They got so shook up about this, they're considering joining the war with us.
The world that the U.S. is dumping its alliances in Trump's second term. But once again, Trump is siding with tyrants over democratic leaders. That will please China and Russia, which have an increasingly close relationship with North Korea. Here are three takeaways. First, Trump sees U.S. alliances as transactional and business relationships rather than...
And don't forget, they are assisting Iran.
Long-term guarantors of U.S. power. Second, his criticism of South Korea shows once again that his diplomacy is driven by personal hunches than traditional foreign policy doctrine. And third, the concession to Kim will send a message that Iran will hear. Countries like North Korea that have nuclear weapons can be safe from U.S. pressure.
Now, Diamond Gang, South Korea held a rally against the joint military exercises. Some of the people in South Korea believes that will ease the tension with North Korea versus them feeling threatened or feeling that there's forms of aggression against them. So they are against the exercises, some in South Korea. David said, well, Europe is already at war and Iran will be blaming the wrong enemy. Well, Korea is still at war as the war was never ended. It is a cease for in 1953, not peace. Okay. But they actually did a rally against it.
전쟁 연습 강행하는 한반도 안보 위협하는 제1도련선
실제로 군사 훈련이 정말 축소되는
And she's basically saying regarding whether military exercises will actually be reduced.
라고 하는 것은 항상 그의 말이
I think we need to wait and see.
언제나 행동으로 옮겨졌던 것은 아니기 때문에 그것이
As Donald Trump's words haven't always been followed up with action.
행동으로 옮겨질 것인지를 좀 지켜봐야 된다고 생각하고 있고요. 이런 대규모 전쟁
While reducing these large-scale war exercises,
연습 자체는 축소도 의미가
themselves is not without meaning.
없는 것은 아니지만 실제로 긴장을
I believe only by suspending them can we truly have the effect
완화하는 효과를 거두려면 중단하는 것
of easing tensions with North Korea. So that's why they want them to end. So North Korea don't feel threatened.
많이 의미를 가질 수 있다고 생각하기 때문에 축소에서 중단으로 나아가기를 촉구하는 바입니다.
Why hasn't Kim Jong Un responded to your request to have a conversation?
How do you know he hasn't responded?
Now this is Trump going into his conversation with Kim Jong Un, and he's going to speak about South Korea and them not wanting to help us in the war with Iran.
Has he?
Yeah, he has.
Did you speak to him? Before you made the announcement yesterday?
Where are you in conversation?
That's very positive. Well, just so you understand with South Korea, look, South Korea has been protected by us for many, many years. And during my first term, they agreed to pay close to $3 billion a year for protection because we don't, they essentially weren't that. And I asked them to do that at my request. I said, not right. They weren't happy about it, but they agreed. I asked for $10 billion, and they were very unhappy. But we agreed for a short term that it would be $3 billion, and next year it would go up, and the next year it would go up, so they start paying for their protection. When the election was rigged and I ended up watching for 4 years and then coming back, I watched.
Now, those that are in here, I want y'all to pay attention, because pay attention to this part right here, because he said when the election was rigged, he watched Biden. That's not so. I want you guys to pay attention to this next clip.
Biden rescind that $3 billion here for whatever reason. When I called recently, the president of South Korea, who I like, I think he's very nice actually, but I called him, I said, would you like to give us a little hand? We don't need help with Iran, but if you'd like, give us a hand with Iran. He said, no thanks. And I said, wait a minute, we have 39,000 soldiers over there guarding you from Kim Jong Un, your next door neighbor, and you're not going to help us?
Again, these exercises not only helped South Korea, but it helped us. We are not an ally of North Korea, so it helped us as well.
On a very easy military operation in Iran? That's strange. No, we'd rather not get involved. I say, well, why are we involved in helping you? So, and I want to help them, but when you ask somebody, would you like to give us a hand? And they say, no, thanks. And then we're guarding them from a country and paying ourselves billions of dollars. It's costing us billions and billions of dollars to protect not only them, but other countries. Look at NATO. We spend hundreds of billions of dollars protecting Europe from Russia. Hundreds of billions, mostly from Russia, but from other things too. And then they say, well, they don't want to get involved with.
Look at what's going on right now. We're at a deadlock.
Guarding the Strait, where they get most of their oil. They get 50% of their oil, and they don't want to get involved. Why are we doing it? So all I want is fairness. And South Korea, I get along with them very well, but they were paying $3 billion a year, and then they convinced Biden that I was probably a bad person and they shouldn't, and he immediately rescinded that order. So we were getting paid. We would have been getting paid a lot more, but we can't go around and protect all of these countries, especially when they're not there to help us.
Trump. Now listen to this, because Trump confirms North Korea has 57 powerful nuclear weapons. He gave up classified information and then said when Biden was in office, this happened when he was in office. Pay attention.
Was just outside the White House speaking with reporters, ranting and raving about his vanity projects, and then he dropped this massive bombshell.
Are you exchanging written letters with Kim Jong Un?
Can't tell you that. But I get along with him. And you know what? The fact that I get along with him, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He has 57 very powerful nuclear weapons. Should have never allowed it to happen. They should have never allowed it. If I were president, I wouldn't have allowed it. But he's got them. I get along with him very well. Can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I know Kim Jong Un very well, and he's going to be fine. As long as we have a smart president, he's going to be fine. If we have a dumb president...
57 nuclear weapons. And just hold tight, y'all. Listen to this.
And he's probably not going to be so fine.
Well, if that's the case, we're totally fucked because he's not a smart president. And I just want to remind everyone that when North Korea and Kim Jong Un were developing these nuclear weapons, Trump was the president then. When they were writing their love letters back and forth, making it more than likely easier for Kim Jong Un to develop these nuclear weapons. Apparently 57 of them. This is brand new information the American public was not aware of until now. Not even sure if Trump was supposed to mention this. This was likely classified information that he just declassified right there on the spot. Is this his dementia progressing that he can't even remember what's classified and what's not, what's sensitive and what's not? What else is he going to accidentally reveal in the coming days and weeks? Guys, we are getting closer and closer and closer to the big, beautiful day or him being removed because he's just too much of a national security risk. Let me know what you guys think.
So he let that out about North Korea. They have 57 nuclear weapons, and then he proceeded to blame Biden when he was in office when North Korea created them. So here he goes, saying it out of his own mouth.
Think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow along for more, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Exchanging written letters with Kim Jong Un?
Can't tell you that. But I get along with him. And you know what? The fact that I get along with him, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. He has 57 very powerful nuclear weapons. Wow. Should have never allowed it to happen. They should have never allowed it. If I were president, I wouldn't have allowed it. But he's got them. I get along with him very well. Can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I know Kim Jong Un very well, and he's going to be fine. As long as we have a smart president.
I hope we're going to be fine, guys.
He's going to be fine. If we have a dumb president, then he's probably not going to be so fine.
Jared Kushner, Trump's son.
Now, guys, Trump sent Kushner to meet with Hamas leaders in Egypt to discuss the Gaza peace deal. It focused on the next phase in the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. Okay? Now, remember, Netanyahu last week said no. He didn't agree. Okay? He said that Hamas must totally disarm and hand over their weapons. And he said that Israel will not retreat from the yellow lines. But let's take a listen.
Son-in-law has met with Hamas leaders to talk about a Trump-backed plan to end the war in Gaza. That meeting in Egypt focused on the next phase of this plan. For one, it includes keeping the ceasefire between Israel and Gaza in place, then disarming Hamas totally while also making sure that Israel's military withdraws from the Strip, and then sending in an international stabilization force. Mediators from Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar were in the room too, trying to work out something to help the sides reach an agreement. But in a rare public show of defiance against Trump, Netanyahu rejected that plan just last week. He said that Israel won't withdraw from Gaza.
And again, guys, Israel feels like we are not going to be there or be able to help them. They cannot depend on us. So they are preparing themselves, by themselves, to potentially have an exchange with Iran.
until Hamas is, in his words, genuinely disarmed. And an Israeli political source now tells CBS News there is still a major gap between Israel and the U.S. over whether Hamas can actually be forced to give up its weapons. But now there may be some movement, with Kushner in Israel meeting Netanyahu. According to an Israeli source at CBS News, they came to agreements on a few things. One, that Hamas needs to totally disarm or else no reconstruction of Gaza would start. Two, that Hamas would have to hand over its weapons for destruction under international supervision. That source also said that Netanyahu insisted that Israel will not give up its freedom to operate militarily in Gaza, and that includes the policy of assassinations. He also said Israel will not retreat from the yellow line. This is the current boundary separating Israeli and Palestinian forces in Gaza. Kushner also reportedly repeated a key message from the U.S. side that there is nothing to rebuild before the Strip is demilitarized. And this meeting comes as Netanyahu faces pressure from outside.
And that's a big deal because he's up for election. He is trying to prove to his people that he's going to stand 10 toes down for them. So he is being very defiant when it comes to President Trump.
And inside the country, Saudi Arabia and the UAE had condemned Israel's rejection of the roadmap and said that Israel bears responsibility for obstructing.
That's a fact. You said Trump loves dictators. He loves them.
The effort to bring peace in Gaza. But Netanyahu also is under political pressure at home because he's got tough elections coming this October. He needs the support of far-right politicians who oppose Trump's plan, and that makes it that much harder for him to agree to a deal that could require Israel to withdraw from the Strip. Since Israel and Hamas agreed to that agreement last October, Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says that more than 1,200 people in the Strip have still been killed by Israeli military attacks, and more than 300 of those have been children.
Have Jared Kushner and
again, Trump did not budge. Hamas must totally disarm completely and turn their weapons over. Benjamin Netanyahu is doing this. He's going against Trump. I'm going to say this again. It's election time. They don't feel in Israel like they are winning on any fronts right now. So he's trying to prove to his people why he should stay in office.
Tony Blair managed to get Israel's Prime Minister to pull back in Gaza and get on board with Donald Trump's peace plan. In short, it does not seem so. Netanyahu hasn't budged. After hours of talk,
I'm going to tell you this, Kushner gave him his way. You know, guys, I'm planning on doing a live on Kushner. That will be my next live stream. But they have a personal relationship. He has been knowing Kushner since he was a kid.
In Jerusalem, his line hasn't moved. No troop pullback and no reconstruction until Hamas hands over its weapons for decommissioning. A prompt and complete disarmament is what Israel demands, according to a senior Israeli government official. Last week, Mr. Netanyahu rejected the 15-point peace plan, saying he would not withdraw from Gaza unless Hamas disarms completely. And Hamas has said that they won't start giving up their weapons until Israel pulls back at least to the yellow line, which it's crossed consistently since the Gaza ceasefire and now controls around 60% of the Gaza Strip. That's why Kushner and Tony Blair, both of whom were on the executive board of the US-led Board of Peace, were in Cairo on Sunday for a rare meeting with senior Hamas officials, including its leader, Khalil al-Hayya. And that's why they came here to Jerusalem to talk to Benjamin Netanyahu and try to get him to stop his attacks in Gaza and start the process of withdrawal. But Netanyahu has a crucial election coming up in 2 months' time, and he's under pressure on all fronts.
And Iran has already said that if there's any deal to be worked out, they will include them.
His far-right government are clamoring for tougher action against Hamas and not for striking deals. And internationally, he knows he's losing support, especially with the US public, and that Trump is growing tired of his obstinacy over Gaza and the continued fighting there and in Lebanon. But domestically, that's his narrative, that he's the only one who can keep Israel safe, and that to do that, he needs to keep up the fight on all fronts. Peace agreements and disarmament are long and complex processes.
Those ties, they need to be cut. They really do.
And if anyone understands that, it's Tony Blair. His signature achievement was bringing peace to Northern Ireland. But even then, getting the IRA to disarm completely took another 7 years after the ink was signed on the Good Friday Agreement. With these kinds of things, there are no quick fixes, especially not in the Middle East. But Netanyahu is not for turning.
Breaking news. Yesterday, Jared Kushner walked out of a near...
All right, we are up to real time today. Okay, so this happened today. You said, why should Hamas do anything after all? More Jews will be unalived and will not achieve what they want in Lebanon. Yeah. Do me a favor. You got to take the KILL out and the DIE. You got to take those two out. Misspell it. All right, let's go.
Nearly 4-hour private meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu and basically handed Israel a green light to keep going. This is a man with no real government job, no Senate confirmation, nothing. Yet he sits down with the Israeli prime minister for hours and comes out saying America will not restrict Israel's right to defend itself. And if Hamas doesn't fully disarm in 60 to 90 days, then Israel gets the full U.S. backing to finish the job. How is that not a massive conflict of interest? Kushner is not some neutral American official. He is close personal friends with Netanyahu. Netanyahu used to sleep in the Kushner family home when Jared was a kid. I mean, these two go way back. Jared wants what Netanyahu wants for Israel, period. And then he turns around and says it's very, very hard to trust a terrorist organization when talking about his meeting with Hamas.
You met with Hamas officials yesterday. Do you think they're genuine about peace?
I mean, they said all the right things, but obviously it's very, very hard to trust, a terrorist organization that committed these terrible atrocities. But we had a very cordial meeting.
So he basically went through, asked, and Benjamin Netanyahu would not budge. And basically Kushner gave him the green light to continue.
And they said all the right things. And so we're going to give them a chance to perform, but it's going to have to be based on actions and steps. And I hope it will be true.
When has Hamas ever lied to the U.S., to Israel, or to the public? Not once. But we can list all the lies Israel's repeated for years. Beheaded babies. Fell apart under
I had to bleep that out because of what he was saying, guys.
Scrutiny, and ceasefire after ceasefire that Israel breaks while blaming the other side. Lebanon, Gaza. Same pattern every time. The people who keep lying are the ones you cannot trust. And now private citizen with deep personal ties to Netanyahu is out here promising American support for more killing in Gaza like he speaks for the whole country. Sheesh. This is what it looks like when Israel first interests run the show right here in our country.
All right, guys. We're going to do a roundup, and then I'm going to get into the UAE accusing Iran of firing 2 missiles toward them. Of course, Iran denied it, but guess what? The UAE cut off all trade with Iran behind it.
Trump threatens to bomb U.S. ally Oman as he rejects an extension to the Memorandum of Understanding. And South Korea, under U.S. pressure, says it's now considering joining military efforts against Iran.
So this clip right here is going to round up everything that I talked about tonight.
Here's everything you need to know about the past 24 hours. Another phase of the war has passed with a 60-day deadline for a final deal coming and going, and the world is watching to see what comes next. Trump says Iran should wave the white flag and surrender, almost 6 months into a war he initially said would last 4 weeks. Trump's approval ratings have now fallen to the lowest point of his presidency, with just 33% of Americans satisfied with his performance, whilst 80% still expect a prolonged war, the kind that Trump campaigned against.
Well, they want to make a deal, but they're not going to make the kind of a deal that I feel is necessary. Look, we're in there for one reason. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. You understand that? Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Trump also threatened to bomb Oman, a key U.S. partner in the region, if it gets in the way of a deal. Oman has been negotiating separately with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz.
Let me read this comment. You said Israel did that in the 80s, and that was with U.S. help, and they withdrew after the U.S. Marines were unalived in their bases in Lebanon. The worst U.S. Marines, biggest loss of life since World War II. Wow.
Hormuz. But Oman's Dokkan port was the last place the troubled USS Abraham Lincoln docked to resupply on July 7th. The situation in the strait remains tense. At least one vessel was attacked on Tuesday.
This is Qualibov. He's saying until America implements its commitment under the MOU, including lifting the blockade, the release of frozen assets, lifting the oil sanctions, ending threats and military operations on all fronts, and other conditions. The straits will not be reopened.
Meanwhile, a senior Iranian official has told Reuters that if diplomacy fails, Tehran will launch a timely and precise attack to break the U.S. naval blockade.
Bingo, I told y'all earlier, they are literally planning to bomb the U.S. blockade.
Wall Street Journal is citing intelligence reports saying Iran has been preparing for an escalation since the MOU was signed. It says Iran used the 60 days to ramp up missile production and reinforce strategic locations in case of a U.S. ground invasion. Of course,
and I showed you guys how they were ramping up their missile capability. It is insane how quickly they're building those missiles.
Restocking and resupplying is also exactly what J.D. Vance said the U.S. would be doing during the MOU ceasefire period.
I think what the president has told us to do is use this MOU to sort of refill the world's oil economy, to refill some stocks, and then to see where the hand is.
In Israel, a reserve brigadier has told Channel 14 that Israel cannot rely on the U.S. and needs to be ready to fight Iran on its own.
Now, remember, I told you this, that Israel said that they cannot rely. It says we cannot rely on the Americans. Meanwhile, we went into this for them. In everything related to Iran. We are not fighting for the Strait of Hormuz. This is what Israel is saying. Nor for global oil prices. This is a smack in the face. We are fighting for our essential necessities in facing Iran.
Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish regional government says it was attacked by Iranian drones. The office of the Prime Minister and the home of the intelligence chief in Erbil were both attacked. The KRG is accusing Iran, with the UAE also condemning Iran for the attack. But Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi denied Iran's involvement, posting on X, "Nothing justifies the reckless attack on Prime Minister Barzani's office. Kurdish friends should be vigilant against false flag ploys to sow discord between neighbors." The war has been reshaping relationships on both sides. A day after Trump said he was reducing U.S. military exercises.
They are really trying to blame Israel for these. They're calling it false flags.
With South Korea because of their reluctance to get involved. South Korea now says it's considering assisting the U.S. military in the Strait of Hormuz.
So you heard that. Now they're reconsidering. It says taking into account various factors, including the readiness posture on the Korean Peninsula and procedures required. Under domestic law, we are close consultations with the United States regarding possible, substantive, and military contributions.
That's it from us today. Stay with us on Al Jazeera for your latest updates.
All right, so now we're going to get into the UAE says Iran fired 2 missiles toward them. Now, nobody got hurt. One went in the water and one went outside the water. But they're blaming Iran. Iran said they didn't do it. It was a false flag coming from somewhere else.
Just moments ago, the UAE's defense ministry announced that 2 Iranian missiles were fired towards their country. One of them fell within Emirati territorial waters. The other fell outside of them. This comes just hours after we saw 2 separate ships attack going through the Strait of Hormuz. Follow for the latest updates out of the Middle East.
There it go right there. Iran rejects UAE claim over missile launch.
Hey.
Now, the UAE ended up cutting off Iran on all trade.
This is breaking news. The UAE just announced that they have cut off all trade with Iran. Their Ministry of Foreign Affairs says in light of regional escalations that undermine regional and international peace and security, all trade, commercial exchanges, and financial transactions with Iran have been halted until further notice. Follow for the latest updates on the situation with Iran.
The ceasefire clock hit 0. Minutes later, sirens went off across the UAE. August 18th.
Now, she's just going to go into details about what happened. Again, one hit the water, one hit outside. Nobody was injured. But again, Iran said, we didn't do it. This is a false flag.
Just as the 60-day U.S. Iran MOU expired, UAE Air Defense says it detected 2 ballistic missiles inbound from Iran. Both fell into the sea, one inside UAE waters, one outside. No injuries, no damage. The alert was lifted within minutes. Iran's response was immediate and total. Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghaei called the accusation baseless, a violation of good neighborliness that undermines the very trust regional states have been trying to rebuild. State media went further, framing it as a false flag operation, pointing to Iran's own pattern of publicly claiming responsibility whenever it strikes. The UAE didn't wait for clarity. By Tuesday night, it had suspended all trade and financial dealings with Iran. Hours later, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was on the phone with UAE Security Chief Sheikh Tahnoon, the same man who'd spent months quietly rebuilding.
Listen, Marco Rubio automatically blamed them and told them to take necessary action.
Building the UAE-Iran relationship, talking about holding Iran accountable. Now, here's what makes this strange. Abu Dhabi and Tehran have spent decades in an odd equilibrium. A live territorial dispute over Abu Musa and the Tun Islands, sitting right alongside deep trade ties with Dubai, long serving as Iran's re-export lifeline. That balance just cracked in a single news cycle. So miscalculation, message, or manufactured. We are not calling it, but 3 explanations are on the table, and we talk through all of them very soon.
The UAE escalates the economic war against Iran, halting trade indefinitely. That's after it accused Tehran of launching ballistic missiles. Here are all your latest developments over the past 24 hours.
So let's take a look. He's just going to go into a little bit more detail. And again, they spoke out about it, said we didn't do it. I mean, to be honest with you, they pretty much own everything that they do. So it could be a false flag.
The UAE has halted all trade, commercial exchange, and financial transactions with Iran until further notice after an alleged missile attack. On Tuesday night, the UAE said it detected and intercepted 2 missiles it says were launched from Iran. In the first 6 weeks of the war, the UAE was hit by Iran more than any other nation, but attacks stopped after June's Memorandum of Understanding was signed with the US. Iran's foreign ministry has categorically rejected.
Exactly. So they had a back and forth. They got hit multiple times. But here's the thing. Once the MOU was signed, it pretty much died down. Iran did not try to bomb the UAE since the MOU. I don't see why they would start back up.
Any involvement in the alleged strikes, calling it a false flag operation to undermine relations. And those ties, especially economic, are very important to Iran. The UAE is one of Iran's largest trading partners. In recent years, it has provided Iran with a commercial gateway to bypass US sanctions and access international supply chains.
I don't think that you can overstate.
Listen, you guys just heard it, to bypass U.S. sanctions. I think it was a false flag. I do.
Or understate the importance of the trade, both financial and goods trade between Dubai.
That's a fact. You said the UAE attacked Iran during the war, and it's a fact because French fighters were used, and the UAE Air Force is the only regional air force with the French fighters. Yeah, they had a back and forth.
Dubai and Iran. Right now, Dubai, UAE is the largest seller of import goods.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to look it up by this play real quick.
To Iran, exceeding that of China, exceeding that of Turkey. So 1/3 of the imports by Iran in any year come from the UAE.
The escalation between the UAE and Iran happened hours after a phone call between US President Donald Trump and the UAE's President Mohammed bin Zayed. The UAE's trade embargo is now being imposed alongside the US naval blockade against Iran. Trump says the blockade will stay in place and has confirmed diplomatic activity with Iran is at a standstill. He posted there are no talks or conversations going on or scheduled with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The naval blockade remains in full force and effect, and the Hormuz Strait is open and operating. Iran's foreign ministry responded by saying the US is, quote, begging for negotiations, having failed to achieve any of its war objectives.
And this is the Foreign Minister Arachi looking during the first 2 weeks of the war. The United States. Some countries were asking to step in, for example. To move things forward, establish contacts, or mediate. Our response to all of them was clear. And it was a response the president also believed in. We do not want a ceasefire. We want an end to the war.
Qatari mediators insist diplomacy is still alive. The Qatari Foreign Ministry is awaiting the outcome of talks between
February 28th, 2026, Iran launched its first major strike against the UAE. Didn't they hit, I want to say they hit, let me take a look. They struck, it was some type of plant, or maybe not. No. They actually launched missiles and drones toward targets in the UAE. The attacks affected Dubai. They did hit civilian infrastructure. I remember that. In military facilities.
in Iran and Oman while pushing for a return to the MOU.
Trajectory of events we would like to see in Qatar is an agreement on the opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
Qatar has been speaking out. They're trying to get. I look at Qatar kind of on the level of Oman. Okay, they want to see an agreement,
which would coincide with the resumption of the ceasefire and the resumption of.
Thank you for the jewels. Hey, Marie, what you doing up?
Of the talks.
That's all from us today. Stay with us on Al Jazeera for all your latest updates.
We've got a big update.
All right, this is the last piece. This is the Trump regime sanctions the International Criminal Court. That's the ICC. That is who is going after Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes. So this is what they're doing in return. Let's take a listen.
The U.S. has now sanctioned the president of the International Criminal Court, Tomoko Akane. These sanctions freeze any U.S. assets that she holds and largely cut her off from the U.S. financial system.
If you were in my previous live streams, I played that clip of Lindsey Graham making behind-the-scenes plans to do some things to people that were part of the ICC.
This is part of the Trump regime's efforts, which they have stated publicly, to completely dismantle the International Criminal Court brick by brick. Why? Because the ICC has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes committed in Gaza. There's also been a lot of reporting that Trump officials themselves are concerned about being prosecuted by the court after the Trump regime is over. And by the way, one thing to note here, the United States has never even been a member of the ICC. However, the ICC...
They are definitely scared because of the threats and because we actually did strike some infrastructure.
ICC statute.
And let's not forget the all-girls school
Does give the court the power to prosecute atrocity crimes committed on the territory of member states by nationals of non-member states. Prior to today's news, the Trump regime had already announced sanctions on at least 11 ICC officials, including 9 judges and the chief prosecutor. And let me show you this clip of Trump from late July, where he specifically says the reason they are going after the ICC is due to their desire to prosecute Benjamin Netanyahu. And he claims that he's safe for now. Trump saying, I'm safe for now, I think.
Here in Parliament of The Hague. So we tried to get them to reform and listen to us. They wouldn't do it. They're very arrogant. We've now begun an effort to really try to bring that court to heel.
Where there's no information that they're after me. You could have. Just so you know. Just be talking about it. I'm saying he's not trying to defend me. He's trying to defend Bibi and various other people. But there are many people that shouldn't be looked at that way. But there is no indication that I'm one of them at this moment.
Well, there you have it. And also, who's laughing at that? We're going to keep following this.
I'm definitely not laughing at that. The UN is very disturbed by this
story. Before you go, do me this favor. I want you to check right now. Make sure you're still subscribed to the Midas Touch podcast on audio platforms like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever you use. We've received a lot of emails from people telling us they were unsubscribed from the show. So check it out now. It's free.
Yeah, go subscribe to Midas Touch. I love them.
Add the show, listen to the latest episodes, and we'll be back soon.
We've seen the announcement.
The UN seriously concerned over U.S. sanctions on ICC officials is troubling to them. We have seen the announcements by the United States.
By the United States regarding the imposition of sanctions on the International Criminal Court President, Tomoko Akane, as well as a senior trial lawyer, Abdullah Issei. I can tell you that the Secretary General expresses serious concern about this designation, as well as the ongoing designation of other International Criminal Court employees. While the United Nations and the International Criminal Court are separate institutions with separate and distinct mandates, as we've often said, the United Nations considers the ICC a key pillar of international criminal justice, and the Secretary General very much respects its work.
They are literally going after ICC employees. So they're not able to prosecute Benjamin Netanyahu, nor eventually conduct any type of investigations on the Trump administration. I want to say shouts out to anybody that came in. Replay gang, I'm depending on you on this one. Please hit the like. And make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are on YouTube. If you are on Rumble, The Great Spills the Tea. Make sure you guys subscribe. I also have The Great Reactions where I react to viral moments over there on Rumble. And last but not least, I have The Great Political Rants where it's basically all political debates over there. Okay? So I want to say shouts out to you, Marie. Shouts out to you, David, for coming through. Listen, guys, I got to get my memberships up pretty soon. Some of these lives will be members only. So y'all better get y'all memberships soon. All right, Diamond Gang, keep your notification on. Tomorrow, I will be going live about Jared Kushner. There's just one last piece to my video that I got to figure out. But it's pretty interesting. It's a lot of stuff that I had no idea as far as Kushner you know, about the school he went to, about the donations his dad gave, about why his dad was in prison, Trump pardoning, giving him a pardon, and yeah, so, and naming him the ambassador of France, and yeah, we're going to get into it. So make sure you keep your notifications on. Sometime tomorrow, it'll probably be tomorrow night. All right, guys, I got to get up out of here. It is almost 1 a.m. East Coast time. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Good night.
It's your under degrees. Sip with me. I'll pour it hot, so hot. I'll pour it sweet, so sweet. Spilling his tea, spilling and sipping his tea, spilling and sipping his tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's Yolanda degree, feeling great, spilling tea. Have a seat and join me. Sip some tea, unwind with me. Let's grab a snack and talk some smack. I'm your girl, I got your back. I got the news, I got the views. I bet you can't wait, I know you can't wait to sip this tea, sip this tea. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling this tea, spilling and sipping 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 this tea. Thanks for watching me, tuning in, subscribing, hitting that like, smash that like. I don't bite, no. It's Yolanda degree, shining bright, set the stage. Hollywood dreams, red carpet scenes, glitter and glow, the secrets I know. Drama with flair, I serve it rare. I got the scoop, I got the proof. I know you can't wait, so come and escape and sip this tea, sip with me. Spilling this tea, spilling and sipping this tea, spilling and